Welcome back. We got another episode of Let 'Em Ride for you. There's only one game on the WNBA slate for Tuesday, July 9th, so we're going to break down and analyze that game, and we'll talk about which way that I'm leaning as far as the points and then the spread. And then any plays that I put in for that game, I will list down below in the pinned comment, so don't forget to check back in later so you don't miss out on any of those. And then to recap our picks from Saturday, we did take the Wings team total under 80.5. And they landed at 85, so we do not hit on this one. And this was in large part to a weak defensive showing in the first quarter from Vegas. They gave up 27 after 1 to Dallas. Then we took the Storm laying 9. Seattle trailed by 8 at the half, but then they used a huge third quarter in which they outscored Chicago by 15 to come from behind to take the lead. Then they made us sweat it out as they let the Sky pull within 3 in the fourth quarter, but then they ultimately pulled away for a 13-point win and the cover, and this cash is for us. The Sparks, we took them plus 3.5. Man, now they held a 3-point lead with 2 minutes to go. They were tied with 41 seconds to play, and then they went ice cold. They missed their final 4 shot attempts, and they give up 6 straight unanswered points in the process. They lose by 6. They fail to cover this 3.5-point line that looked for the most of the game like it was going to hit for us. So, kind of a meh night in the WNBA, 1-2 overall, but we are up 4.05 units on the year. We are now 28-24 overall. However, we did hit on our no sweat 4-leg parlay, and it was much needed as it was a plus 3.71 unit play. And this could shine a little bit of light on what's been a wild week and a half or so here in the W. Look, I think a handful of us here that have been wagering on the WNBA this year, we've seen some hot stretches, but I think most of us have endured some sort of a cold stretch in this last week or so, which has helped me from feeling like bashing my head up against this wall back here, knowing that I'm not in this alone. But man, I'm ready to get back on the right side of things here, and hopefully hitting this nice 4-leg plus 3 and a 3/4 unit play is the start of that. So technically overall, we have a 2-2 split on the night, a night that puts us up 3.16 units overall. But I don't count these no sweat bets towards the overall records or the units won or lost. But regardless, that's something to smile about after the week that we've had. So let's dive into Tuesday night's action between the Minnesota Lynx and the Los Angeles Sparks. Minnesota is a 7-point favorite for this one. We have an over-under sitting at 156.5. Now, Lynx are on the road here with the rest advantage, and they're coming in off of a win over the Mystics at home in what was their first game without Naphisha Collier. The offense struggled in this one as well as they have of late, only scoring 74 points on 39% shooting and 36% from deep. Defense led the way again for Minnesota. They forced 18 Washington turnovers, and they held them to just 25% shooting from 3. The Mystics have been a 3-point shooting team this year. They've been good from behind the line. The Sparks are home for the 4th game in a row. They will have 3 days off after this before traveling to Dallas to take on the Wings. And they just fell to the Mercury in their last outing by 6, and we just talked about this in our recap, so we're not going to dive too much further into this one. At the time of this recording, though, LA is down the usual. Cam Brick is out for the year with her torn ACL. Lexi Brown is out indefinitely battling with Crohn's disease. And Stephanie Talbot had already been dealing with a foot injury before exiting in the first quarter of the Sparks game against Phoenix. So they will most likely be without her as well for this one. Be sure to check back into the injury report before tip-off to get the final say on that one. Azrae Stevens did make her return, however, versus Phoenix on Sunday, and she recorded 10 points, 6 boards, and 4 assists in 25 minutes of play. The Lynx will be without Naphisha Collier, and no timetable has been set for her return yet. Most of what I've read on this injury is saying 2 months recovery time, so we're just going to have to wait and see what kind of update we get on her when we do get one. So Minnesota, look, they have struggled since that victory over the Liberty in the Commissioner's Cup. They've gone just 2-3 straight up and only covered once in that time period since then. And they have slid in a major way offensively in these last 5 games. After spending much of the season as the only team rated in the top 3 in both offensively and defensively, they are still second defensively, but they have fallen to dead last offensively. So let's stay in the last 5 games as we dive in further here for both of these teams. Minnesota has become very reliant on perimeter shooting. Over their last 5, they are making the 3rd fewest baskets from inside the restricted area and the fewest made buckets from the paint outside of that area. They're making the most shots from the mid-range, but more so because of the volume of attempts as they sit 4th to last in shooting percentage from that area. LA is middle of the pack in terms of allowing made field goals from the mid-range, but they allow teams to convert at a 41% rate. That's the 2nd highest in the W. The Lynx are converting the 3rd most above the break threes, and they're shooting the 3rd highest percentage from 3 overall, but all of this is translating to just 74 points per game for the Lynx. The Sparks are giving up the most made above the break threes and at the highest shooting percentage in the W. So we should see Minnesota be able to exploit this weakness here as it remains a strength of theirs. They have had no low post presence, however, and honestly for much of the year. But taking Nafisha out of the equation as well, this will only continue to get worse, which is tough as this is another area that they could take advantage of the Sparks defense. While LA is holding opponents to just under 11 makes a game from the restricted area, they allow them to convert at a 77% clip, and that's the highest in the league. And they're also giving up the third most points from the paint outside of that restricted area at the third highest shooting percentage. So while the Lynx defense has taken it hasn't taken a huge hit overall as far as performance goes. One area for concern is the lack of forced turnovers and points made from those, as this had been a huge strong suit for Minnesota up until this recent 5-game stretch. So they ranked first for much of the season in forced turnovers and points made off of those turnovers. And in this 5-game stretch, they are forcing only the 7th most turnovers per game. That's good for only 14 points per game off of those turnovers. That's third to last in the W. In their last 5, the Sparks are attempting the 2nd most above the break threes. They're making the 4th most of the W. And they're shooting the 3rd most threes and converting at a 35% clip just overall. Minnesota is still only giving up, though, the 3rd fewest above the break threes, allowing opponents to hit at only 29%. And then just overall from three-point land in general, they're only allowing opponents to shoot 31%. The Sparks have struggled tremendously in the mid-range. They're hitting the fewest shots at the lowest percentage from there, and have hit the 4th most shots from the restricted area, but the 4th fewest from the paint outside of that restricted area. And they are scoring the 5th fewest points from the paint overall. The Lynx are holding opponents to the lowest shooting percentage from the restricted area, and the 3rd lowest from the paint outside of that restricted area. The Sparks have been getting to the line at the 3rd highest rate, but they're only converting at a 73% rate. And the Lynx are also only putting opponents at the line, at the lowest rate in the W on top of that. So while the Lynx continue to work through the slump on the offensive end, they are still an extremely talented team on the defensive side, and just simply have more depth and talent overall than the Sparks. LA has definitely, though, they've shown us flashes at time. Look, they're scrappy, they're resilient. They upset the Aces twice. They even played the Lynx tough in Minnesota in the last meeting between these two. They jumped out to an early 25-14 lead after one, but then they ultimately lost 81-76. Minnesota outscored them 67-51 the rest of the way. Minnesota won the first meeting between these two, also in LA, in early June by 24 points, 86-62. So I'm leaning Minnesota here, laying the 7. And then as far as the total, the Lynx have hit the under in 4 straight. The Sparks have hit the under in 3 of their last 4. And then head-to-head, these two have had 5 straight hit the under in 7 of their last 8. With the struggles of the Minnesota offense and the inconsistencies of the Sparks offense, coupled with the Lynx still strong defense, and the injuries on both sides affecting the offensive ends as well, I see another under on our hands here. There are no lines for team totals yet when I dived in and was looking. But with the lines that we have, we should be looking at the Sparks team total at 75.5. And I think I'd take a peek at the under there as well. Minnesota will have to win this one on the strength of their defense. So I expect them to lock down. Give me the under here. And like I said, go look at the Sparks team total under too once we get lines there and I know for sure where it's at. So that's just about going to do it here for another episode of Let 'Em Ride. Before we get out of here today, let's recap what we went over in today's video so we can talk about which way we are leaning for this game here. Right now, I am looking at the Lynx laying that 7. Then I'm looking at the full game under 156.5. And I got my eye on the Sparks team total under 75.5 as well. Now, all 3 of these are just leans. I have not made any of these plays official. But if I do and when I do, and if I find anything else that I like before tip-off that I throw in there, I will have it listed down below in the pinned comments. So be sure to check back in. That way you can see if you'd like to ride along with me. Or maybe you look back in and you're like, dude, all those picks suck. They're duds. And you want to do the contrary. Whatever you decide to do, throw them down in the comments. That way we can talk about it. I'd love to see what you guys have cooked up as well. Some of you are in there cooking up some bangers, man. So be sure to throw those into the comments. Hey guys, if you liked the content today, found it helpful or useful in any kind of way, please don't forget to smash that like button down there. It's really helpful. It helps the channel grow. And please subscribe if you have not already. That way you do not miss out on any of the content that we're dropping daily. And if you can hit share, it's definitely appreciated. So that's going to wrap it up here. I hope you guys have a great night. Bet responsibly. And I will see you on the next video.